It's the Smart Driving Cars podcast. We appreciate you spending some time with us. This edition is sponsored by the Smart ETF's Smart Transportation and Technology ETF, symbol MOTO. For more information, head to motoetf.com. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University, Alain Kornhauser. Hi, Alain.
Hey, good morning, Fred.
Looking like a sunny day.
Yeah, it's sunny, but it's cold, darn it, whatever.
Well, in the latest edition of the Smart Driving Cars newsletter, on top is a press release from GM saying it aims to transform the auto insurance industry with OnStar Insurance. It says OnStar Insurance Services intends to leverage its unique understanding of the vehicles GM produces to offer a secure, fair, personalized, and easy-to-use digital insurance experience for drivers. It's a pretty big deal.
I think so, because as we've been talking many times here, insurance is what we believed is a real motivator for the OEMs to make the OEMs put up really good and safe products out there. And to have the OEMs themselves go in there and put and offer the insurance product really implies, at least to me, that they believe that they know the risks associated with the commodities that they sell to us better than the various actuaries that go out and compute what the risks are based on historical information. And so again, with respect to insurance, the key with respect to pricing is being able to properly estimate what the liabilities are going to be associated with me or you operating a particular product. And if you look at it from just a general insurer point of view, about the only thing that they have available to them is historic information about a particular product or about how I use a particular product. They know, in some sense, very little about a new product. Since OEMs are out there in the business of selling us new cars, those new cars may have more or less risk associated with their use than old cars. So here you have a normal insurance company who has its actuaries looking at data on what old cars have resulted in terms of liabilities, and have to use those data to estimate how much they're going to charge me or price based on the expected liabilities that I'm going to incur in using a new car. But what a OEM has is they've tested all these new cars. They've had them out there. They've collected an enormous amount of data, and they should know better as to whether or not they're performing. They will perform just like old cars, or worse or better than new cars, than old cars. So therefore, they have a data advantage associated with expected liabilities associated with these vehicles. So if you then fold this in with automation technologies, whose at least some of them are oriented to crash avoidance. Certainly the automated emergency braking systems, the electronic stability control systems. These are all focused on eliminating crashes, eliminating liabilities by a driver. And then if you look from a crash point of view, why do we have car crashes? Well, it's really a large percentage, 90% or something of car crashes involve misbehavior by drivers. So if all of a sudden the OEMs put technologies in vehicles that basically keep a driver from misbehaving at least some of the time or all the time, oh my goodness, they might be able to reduce crashes by 90%. Whoa. So all of a sudden, what does that mean? Not only do we live, although maybe they get to sell fewer cars because there are fewer cars that are smashed up that they get to replace, but let's not talk about that. But the implications on insurance is enormous, at least I think, because in some sense, in the past when we were dealing with technologies that make cars safer, we were dealing with technologies that did crash mitigation. In other words, we still had the crashes, but we lived. Okay, so what do airbags do? They help us live. What does a collapsing steering wheel do for us? It helps us live. What does a crash absorbing, monocoque construction, energy absorbing, and so on and so forth? They let us live. Okay, which is
And the
great.
insurance companies would argue, well, it's so much more expensive to fix those
Well,
vehicles.
that's where I'm getting to.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, oh my goodness, the car company designed a car that basically was a shock absorber, except it didn't spring back. Okay, so it meant it had to be replaced, or it put airbags in there that had to be replaced, or it did all that. And so, all of a sudden, under all this crash mitigation, which is really good because we get to live, Fred, okay? Unfortunately, the liabilities associated that the insurer had to cover end up being more expensive. You have to increase premiums. You have to price it higher. Okay. And as you put more and more of these things in your technology, who knows better as to how much more expensive is it going to be to fix than the car companies? And they don't know that early. And so, in fact, they're able to price them more properly and, hey, increase premiums better so that in fact, they remain afloat. And then we all know that, with crash mitigation, and the thing that we don't want to say is if we have a crash and we live, it's more expensive than if we. And so all of a sudden, Fred, we're sitting there, this is, and no wonder insurance companies haven't been the biggest fan of, all this great safety improvements that OEMs have put in the cars. Because the crashes still occurred, because they didn't do anything about our misbehavior. Okay, airbag doesn't allow me to misbehave less, probably allows me to misbehave more because I'm going to think that I'm going to survive it. Well, we don't even want to go thinking about that. But they didn't do anything about that. But all of a sudden, they started putting, analog brakes in there, so that if we apply the brakes the wrong way, we don't slide and so on. We remain to do, and so those stop some crashes. And then NHTSA required electronic stability control in all cars starting in 2012. So if I went around a corner too fast and I happen to have not a 55 Chevy, but who knows what, 2014, who knows what, then in fact, it might save my butt and I wouldn't crash. And then all of a sudden they started putting automatic emergency braking in systems. And as we saw, maybe, Subarus would actually work and stop you from crashing, while others will allow you just to, reduce. If you were going 12 miles an hour and not hit it at 12 miles an hour, it would run into the back end at 6 miles an hour. Well, that doesn't do any good. But each car company knew how good or bad their automated emergency braking system is or was. Okay? So therefore, instead of waiting for the actuaries to look at historic data as to whatever, they know in advance before they put the darn thing in the showroom. They have better data. Okay? So all of a sudden, if a Subaru or something like a Subaru or a GM now makes an automated emergency braking system that actually keeps you from running into the back end of vehicles, okay, while you're misbehaving and not paying attention or whatever, then all of a sudden, they can expect that the liability exposure that that someone coming into the showroom to buy that vehicle is going to be a heck of a lot lower. And guess what? They have a pricing advantage with that information.
And with it being personalized, something like OnStar and other technologies, they know what kind of driver you are.
Well, they know what they also with OnStar, they know what kind of driver you are. They have all that additional information, but really not just knowing what kind of driver. In a sense, if the system can sense that I'm about to have a crash and it's going to cause me to not crash, almost hey, guess what? They probably want that system and they want that car to be sold to somebody who's a bad driver like me, always, misbehaving. Because guess what? That system is going to reduce my expected collisions a great deal. Okay. Now you, Fred, you're a nice, you never misbehave. You'll never have a crash, So of course these systems are wasted on you. Okay. Heck with you, we'll let the other insurance insure you. Okay.
Well, I guess we've seen this kind of thing before, Alan, Tesla, and I'm not sure how Volvo works, but I know they have a subscription service that bundles insurance with a subscription.
They've certainly talked about those kinds of things. And of course, if you have a data and information advantage, you know when to hold them and you know when to fold them. What else are you going to do?
Keep on singing,
geez,
right?
Hey, if you can't compete with that, so of course, I mean, what took them so long?
Well, it's a little complicated, I suppose, the insurance business, because individual states regulate insurance and have to give companies permission to offer insurance in each individual state.
Of course, and so on and so forth. And insurance deserves to be protected, and there should be a public oversight on insurance, right? Because they really do have to make enough money, charge enough, bring in enough revenue. So when I crash, they have the cash to pay. Okay. So in a sense, if that kind of situation didn't exist, then of course you go out there and you sell whatever you want. Because insurance gets cash in early and pays out late. I mean, that's the great, wonderful thing of insurance, because you get to hold money, invest it, and do all kinds of great things, and wear nice clothes, and be very, very, very. I mean, it's great business. But of course, you also have to insure it, and it helps the business to make sure that, in fact, when there is a claim, there's money there to be available to satisfy that claim. So, I guess everybody's happy on that one. Okay, I'm happy buying the insurance with the confidence that, in fact, if I need to collect something will be there and I'll be taken care of, and it will be collectible. And of course, the insurance companies out there, man, that's a nice business. Yeah, no wonder Warren Buffett's in it. I mean, it's a nice business.
Well, we had a great session on incentivizing through insurance on the Smart Driving Car Summit earlier this month. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, again, I mean, we've said many times that insurance should be out there leading, because in fact, and leading in this automated driving technology that is really focused on avoiding crashes when the driver misbehaves, when the driver is either going too fast or or tailgating or not paying attention or well, it can't help you if you've had too much drink. So I mean, in the end, that's going to catch up on you. But and all the various things that really, that I guess, driving's not simple. And every once in a while we, relax and whatever and so on and so forth. And we get ourselves between a rock and hard place. And that's where this technology could really help. And help what? Not just in the mitigation, but in the elimination, in the avoidance of the crash. Because then there's no lawyer, there's no ambulance, there's no, you got to, fix half of my body. It's, it's to me,
we're going to have a lot more
obvious.
On this, Alan.
Yeah.
We're going to have a lot more on this. We expect to have the head of OnStar Insurance Services joining us as a guest in a special edition of the podcast in the very near future. You can look for that.
And we'll have to see whether or not they may. I don't know what they're going to say, but to me, I mean, from a way outsider, I know nothing about insurance. Just looks to me as fundamentally obvious.
Well, we'll be back with more, but first, this is a good time to remind you about our sponsor, the Smart ETF's Smart Transportation and Technology ETF, symbol MOTO. To get more info, head to motoetf.com. On the website, it's a good idea to read the white paper there. It's called the Smart Transportation Revolution. It's under the Insights and News tab. Great information there to help you make informed decisions about investing. You may know ETFs can be a good way to spread risk with investments and focus on a particular category of stocks. The site, once again, is motoetf.com. Alan, some other news to get to in the latest newsletter. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety says adaptive cruise control is prompting some drivers to speed, possibly undermining the feature's potential safety benefits.
Well, maybe, okay, but cruise control wasn't supposed to be a safety thing. It's a comfort and convenience thing. Okay.
And if they really wanted to, couldn't the technology be employed to simply say, no, you can't speed?
Absolutely. So in a sense, if some of these automated features, if the focus is going to be on comfort and convenience, this is different than automated emergency braking. Automated emergency braking is basically on all the time. I'm not supposed to be able to snip the wires or turn it off. It's there in case I misbehave, gives me a get out of jail free card. Fundamentally important to that kind of system. Cruise control isn't that. It's a comfort and convenience. It lets me take my feet off the pedals. Okay, so it needs to be that those kinds of automated driving technologies need to be such that constrained in their use, not just anytime I want to use them, but anytime I want to use them such that they don't degrade safety. Okay? And degrade safety, what is what should be the benchmark on safety is how safe I drive when I'm alert and not misbehaving. Okay? That should be, we shouldn't necessarily expect any of these systems to work better than that. Hell, we're all great drivers as long as we don't misbehave. Really, we really are. And to think that, some computer someplace da da dee da 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 or da do da da dee can do better than we do when we're really focused on it, it's going to be a while yet before we do better than that.
And I guess it would
All
be
of a
hard to
sudden,
it would be hard to say that it's the adaptive cruise control that's prompting people to speed. It's the people who are doing the
yeah,
speeding.
it's the misuse of the system, and it shouldn't be permitted. Its misuse, the misbehavior of that should be set. So then the question comes, okay, what is the appropriate speed on a section of roadway? Okay, we do have speed limits out there. And if you go to the, I guess, Society of Automotive Engineers or traffic engineers someplace, they'll tell you that the speed limits are supposed to be set at the 85% point of the distribution of speeds that are driven on that. And in fact, it's in a sense expected that you're going to be speeding. I mean, unless you're in a speed trap in which they're giving you a speeding ticket for the purpose of raising money, as opposed to keeping you safe, you're not going to get a ticket if you're going 1 mile over the speed limit. And in fact, probably not at 4 and probably not at 9. And my goodness, on the New Jersey Turnpike, holy mackerel, in places where it's 55 miles an hour, we don't have enough state police to arrest and give tickets to all the people that, do probably 19 over. So in a sense, this article suggesting that cruise control has you speed more because who knows what few people from MIT got out there and who knows how many red lights they ran in Boston, but never mind,
The
I don't know.
IIHS, Alan, has a study out on a new paradigm to evaluate driver situational awareness
Yeah.
using level 2 automation. They used a teddy bear mounted to the back of another vehicle that passed the drivers in the study to determine whether they were paying attention, whether they noticed the teddy bear.
Yeah, and the situational awareness study is a really important one. Why? Because one of the things that you want with respect to the comfort and control aspects of some automation is to be able to take your feet off the pedals and your hands off the wheel, but yet still have your eyes on the road. Okay, and of course, a GM in its automated driving implementation has put in a eye tracker to make sure you're paying attention
Part of
on the
Super
road
Cruise.
ahead on Super Cruise, right? Which is beautiful, no doubt about it. Okay. The problem is that the sensing technology and the sensing mechanisms really focus on whether or not you see it, whether your eyes are on something, okay? But whether or not you see something and you actually do have awareness of it, that's a mental process. That happens back here in the visual cortex and and we have no sensing technology as to whether or not just because it went in your eyes, it got into your brain and so on, and you did something with it. And so the situational awareness business is to try to correlate seeing something with actually understanding something. Okay. And it's really important that we do have some amount, but there's no way that we can go into your brain and say whether or not you understood it. I mean, we're not going to ask people a bunch of tests about stuff as they're driving down. Okay, so I think it's an important study, and it's important to recognize that just because you're looking at something doesn't mean you understand what the heck you're looking at. Doesn't mean even that you have the situational awareness of what the heck it is you're looking at. So I think that's the value of this, how it helps us along in terms of, what kind of gizmos are we going to put in the vehicle so that it looks back on us to make sure that we're behaving, we're using these things properly, we're all, remaining alert and all that sort of stuff. Ends up being a really tough question, because the kinds of things that we're trying to do with the sensors from the outside is really just saying we're looking at something. Whether or not we see it, it has no idea until we start asking questions. Did you see the bear? And okay, I didn't, but so
So you
it
need
drives
something
my
like an
wife.
Alexa to interact with you.
Yeah.
Did you see
Oh,
that,
Jesus.
Alan?
No, man. I mean, we're not going to do that. We know we're not going to do that. And of course, my wife Elizabeth. I'm looking for my glasses. They're on your face. Never mind.
We all do that. So.
Yeah, and it's understood we do that. We have to understand the fact that, yes, if we try to make sure that you do remain situationally aware of what the road conditions are ahead, so that in fact, if you have to jump in there and take over and avoid the accident and do all that stuff, for which none of us are trained to do. Probably the last thing you want to do is, if I'm about to crash, yell to me, "Do something, Alan." Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn the steering wheel and I'm going to flip the car and die.
Sure.
Okay, I don't know what to do. When's the last time I took a driving education class? We don't want to go there. We're not trained to do
sent you an offer in the mail.
I think they must have. Ooh, nasty, Fred.
Well, they sent it to me. So.
No, but seriously, Fred.
Sure.
So in fact, the systems we put in there are much better able to react to those things than we would be. I think we should be able to design those that way, and that's what the OEM should be trying to put in the cars. That's what GM should be trying to put in their cars. That's why they should be insuring us with OnStar, and knowing that in fact, now they'll be able to save us and make a lot of money off the whole darn thing, and I won't crash.
And maybe the customer will save some money too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. More news to get to. Luminar and Volvo are deepening their ties, according to TechCrunch, to sell automated driving systems to other automakers.
Yeah, I think that, good. If they have a great system and so on and so forth, absolutely go in there. Let those automakers go in there. In fact, they should also offer insurance on there and do an insurance product, because they know the performance of these systems. And hopefully there will be some other competitors out there also providing these systems, and they'll compete on really how good they are.
Our friend Russ Mitchell, who participated in the last Smart Driving Car Summit, by the way, as a person who joined in, he's at the LA Times, and he's written that while Tesla touts self-driving to consumers, it tells kind of a different story to regulators.
Well, of course, it tells a different story in its manuals, in the fine print. Okay. And what Tesla needs to do, what everybody needs to do, is not just put that in the fine print, because I'm not going to read it. And if I read it, I'm not going to remember it. And if the consumer is not going to read it and not going to remember it, in some sense, it's on them to put it in the system. As part of the system. These automated systems have to do more than just looking out to see what is on the road ahead and make sure they drive well. In the end, they require some things of us. They may require our hands to be on the wheel, or they may require our eyes to be on the road, or they may require our butts to be in the seat. And if they do, to work properly, if that's what the fine print says, then they should have the sensors in there to make sure that we're doing those things. And if we don't, pull over the side of the road, stop, and basically say, until you have a note from your mother, you can't use it again.
Well, then there was the story that Tesla has removed, they've said they've removed some drivers who weren't paying attention from what it calls its full self-driving beta as that program expands. So
Great.
apparently
That's
they
a
are,
start. That's a
yeah.
start. That's a start. They know. They know. In the past, they haven't said anything to you. They've let you misbehave and use it in the wrong way. Okay. They know when you take stupid summon and you use it and it's not at your home, because they have a GPS receiver on there and they know the thing is not at your home and you shouldn't be allowed to use it. Okay. That should be usable only in your own property.
We'll tell our listeners and viewers that the real name is Smart Summon, but Alan has renamed it as we've gone along.
Yeah, because guess what? Somebody's going to misbehave. Not many, but it only takes a few to ruin it for everybody. Okay? And let's not let the few ruin it for everybody. And they have the data, they have the means, they do it. Hold our feet to the fire. Say these systems are good within this operational design domain under these behavioral conditions of you. We're going to give you the comfort and convenience of taking your feet off the pedals, hands off the wheel, but you've got to remain paying attention. Now,
So
until the
people
system,
need to understand then, and maybe there needs to be a renaming of what full self-driving, the phrase that they use, what it means.
I don't care what they call it.
Well, it does matter in the way
no,
people
of
interpret
course
it. If
it
you tell
does.
if you tell me I'm buying a car that's full self-driving, my assumption is I don't have to pay attention.
I know, of course, but the system should. I don't know if we can walk that one backwards or not. Maybe we can. To me, that's yes. Maybe we can. Of course, we want to do that.
Super safety or something
yeah,
else.
No, we want to be. We want them to not only be honest in terms of their presentation, we want them to be honest in terms of the delivery of the service. And if every time I use that thing, it says you're not paying attention, I'm going to pull over unless you start paying attention. But as long as you pay attention, you're okay, a la what GM did. Then in fact, I'll learn. All right. And so, you could have called it, I don't go, I don't care what you call it. I mean, I do care what you call it because, of course, I hate the levels and so on and so forth. But, but really, it has to go beyond that. It has to be in the implementation. And it can't go back that if I misuse it and all of a sudden, I go to Tesla and say, hey, you're responsible, make me whole here. And they say, oh, no, down here in the fine print. No, not us. No, not that. The system should not have let me do it in the first place. And if it lets me do it, then basically it is product liability on them. And then they have to make me whole. And in fact, if there's going to be any regulation on this stuff, Fred, the regulation has to focus on that. The regulation has to say, if the thing doesn't work, then of course it's product liability. They have to make me whole. But also, if the thing lets me misuse it, then in fact, it's product liability. It's on them.
They're still responsible. So that'll make them hold your feet to the fire.
Absolutely. And maybe they'll go and say, hey, Elon, forget about what you're saying, cut it out, because you're hurting us here. Or maybe not, but it doesn't matter. This system won't let me do it. Okay, and it is critically important that this be done, because it makes them responsible, and it makes them responsible within whatever confined environment it has to, work or not work. And if it lets me use it outside of that operational design domain, it's on them. And guess what? They'll learn to not do that. Okay, why? Because they'll have to pick up the pieces when that happens. It's just, to me, so fundamental, and it's fundamental. It's good, so that therefore there isn't the over promises. It just really does work, and everybody's happy.
Another story to get to. Waymo is disclosing more autonomous vehicle data for research purposes, and I know how you feel about that.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I think it's great. Wonderful they're sharing it. Again, these companies shouldn't be competing on safety. They should be all working together. The safer these things are for anybody, the better they are for everybody.
Another TechCrunch story from Kirsten Korosek. Lordstown Motors is accused of faking EV truck pre-orders by the short seller firm Hindenburg Research. You may recall them. They're the ones who blew the whistle on Nikola Motors.
Hey, keep doing it. Nice they're out there. Again, this is a tough business, and people who are out there lying, cheating, and stealing, they have to be weeded out. Okay, and let's go forward without them.
Well, finally, we've got another great session on tap in the Princeton Smart Driving Car Summit, which takes place every Thursday. It's live at noon Eastern, and this continues through the middle of April. This coming Thursday, the focus will be human-centered design of safe and affordable driverless mobility, and what makes safely driven and driverless mobility better for all users. Really important topic, Alan. We've talked about it on the podcast before with Henry Greenwich, who's going to be the moderator. Should be a great session.
Yeah, it should be a great session. Again, when one gets to the driverless piece and the opportunity to provide mobility to everybody, we've been on the side of providing this mobility to those who could benefit the most, who really have been, for whatever reason, left behind by the personal automobile. Those of us that have access to the personal automobile, we've gotten great mobility, great service at I think a reasonable, if not great price, and we're all happy with it. But a lot of folks somehow, for whatever reason, haven't gotten that, and this is an opportunity to provide them with this kind of mobility that would vastly improve their quality of life. But if we're going to do that, we need to ask, and be sure to ask those folks, and it should be them that are telling us what are the attributes of this thing. What would make them the happiest? What would improve them and give them the most improvement in their quality of life? And it may not be the same thing that you and I would think that they should have. I mean, it's not about what we think they should have, it's what they think they should have. And to really focus on what they think that they should have, and how to put that in the process, as opposed to sort of the easy way to do this. Well, here, this is what they think. This is what we think they should have. Is I think a non-trivial process. And we need to have much more research, much more efforts in that particular direction. And hopefully, and that's what we're going to discuss on Thursday.
Community involvement from the get-go.
Community from that community from the beginning. It's easier to do it from the beginning than retrofit it after it's out there, right? I mean, if ADA, the American Disabilities Act, taught us anything, taught us, my goodness, if you really want to deal with people who don't have the same attributes as we have, and and need some help and can benefit the most, you want to do that early in the design process of what you're doing rather than having to go retrofit it. So let's learn that lesson here, because we are still at the very beginning. We are still at essentially at, 0 degrees Kelvin. Maybe we're at 1 degree Kelvin or something on the Kelvin degree scale, but we're still at the very beginning. And so this is a great opportunity. Let's take advantage of this great opportunity that we have, and just reach out to those folks that we would like to, help here, and say, hey, what would you like to see?
Well, if you want to know more about this, please tune in on Thursday. Again, it's noon Eastern. It's a live discussion, going to be terrific. You can find more information to register at smartdrivingcar.com. You can also get information there about possibly becoming a sponsor. We want to thank our sponsor, the Smart ETF's Smart Transportation and Technology ETF. The ticker symbol for the ETF is MOTO, and more information is available at motoetf.com. Again, you can find us at smartdrivingcar.com, also on Anchor FM, Spotify, TuneIn, Apple, Google, Spreaker, SoundCloud. You can find us on Amazon's podcast too. You can ask your smart speaker to play us. You can find my tech reports at textination.com. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with Alain Kornhauser. Thank you for listening or watching. Please continue to stay safe.